Hey guys, so I have broke my water fast and I should have really got some footage of me eating because it's always quite a pleasant experience. It reduced me to tears in fact, but I didn't think of that, so I just went ahead and broke my fast. I had a elimination of the pains I was fasting for. For those of you who followed the fast, I have post-viral fatigue syndrome, and I was getting a lot of leg cramps and fatigue and brain fog, and it all lifted on the same morning. And I was going to stay with the fast, but as always, I kind of put things over into the hands of spirit. Now I know some of you watching me aren't in line with spirit and don't have that sort of relationship, but I do. And I'd said to spirit, I'll let go once you provide me with this sign. I'll know that the healing is as far gone as it needs to go, and I'll stop. And I got those signs. Today is the end of day 17 since I started that second water fast. Around about day 12, I very clearly and distinctly heard a voice tell me that by day 17 of the fast, the pain would be gone. I even discussed it with Fritzy. And you get heightened perceptions when you're fasting. You know, one time in Tanzania, which many of you know about, I was forced into a fast. I was given some signs to say start fasting. That night in meditation, after doing some yoga, I very clearly heard a voice say, "Take my children into your home." And the very next morning, Dominic was brought to me, and that is the first child to come into my care. And he now calls me father, nearly 4 years later. Maybe I wouldn't have asked him to move into the house the next morning had I not heard that voice. So it's very important that we align with that side of ourselves, I feel. And fasting, there's no better way to put the flesh into a silent and a humble state. I'm going to go through the science of everything a little bit, and refeeding and how you should refeed from a long fast, going from experience and going from the wealth of knowledge I've managed to pick up whilst reading on the topic as well. But I also want to incorporate the important parts of it as well, because while I watch fasting vlogs, a lot of them are science based. And the healing I received wasn't just physical, it wasn't just a science thing, it was an emotional and spiritual journey, as it is for all of us as well. I went into this fast, which was perhaps, aside from the physical symptoms leaving me, which were very important, I went into this fast carrying quite a bit of grief, actually, and more than I'd realised when I got into the fast. I realised just how much. And one of the key things that happened, a transition inside me which has made me strong for the time ahead in Tanzania, is that grief was converted into a sense of honour. And by that I mean, yes, I grieve for those who have passed. You have to understand, I'm a great animal lover. My affectionate name, Wanyama, means father to the animals, given to me by the locals, because I'm forever trying to help the sick animals around us. And we have the rescue shelter. But in amongst that, this year, in the last 12 months, we've said goodbye to more than 20, I think, rescue dogs that we have loved and looked after. Some I've been with for 5 years, some were with us a short amount of time. Some found their way to our fence just to then die the next day in comfort with us. So God brought them to us, and we love them all with the same love. It doesn't matter if the child who passes has 4 legs or 2. We love them with the same love. And that has been an ongoing battle for me, saying goodbye to so many lives and wondering what you could have done different. And in Tanzania, dogs have a difficult time. When they're out on the street, they're malnourished, they have different diseases, so fatality is quite high in rescue, sadly. on top of that, I had the children die, and these are children that I have said goodnight to and loved and kissed on the forehead for as long as 2.5 years, one of them, and the other 2 years. So by a feeling of honour, of course, I grieved this loss, but what God transitioned in me, which was hugely important, and I know how important because the weight is tremendously light regarding the topic for me now, is that it's an honour for me, is how I perceive it, that God chooses me and sees me good enough to be a guardian in a situation as large and profound in life as handing over the soul of a being in their last hours to God. And I feel a great sense of honour now, and moving forward I feel that sense of honour with the other children who and dogs who may well leave us, and I'm happy about that as well. I wanted to get that off my chest early because this is a huge part of the healing. The physical healing as well, as I've mentioned. The spiritual side of it is quite a deep topic, and hearing God so profoundly, just before I move off the spiritual topic altogether, hearing God so profoundly, if you were to ask me a comparison between two animals around about 2 months ago, and you wanted to show up a photograph of a little kitten and a photo of a lion, I'd rather compare myself to a lion, like most of us would. It's a little bit cooler and so on, but your personality type will determine that. Now, as a man who is a provider for so many children, it's very important to make sure that you keep your relationship open with humility. And humility is a very difficult thing, because the second you admit that you're humble, you lost it. So humility doesn't come through an admittance or a thought process. Humility comes from being this figure of authority, which I've become to so many children and to the staff and so on, where I'm having to order this and to do this and to solve this problem and to help this child and to help that person. To move from that state into a state where you're so weak that all you've got is the cry of your heart toward God, because you can hardly get the energy to go down to the toilet or to go and get yourself a drink of water. The shift from the lion to the kitten. This is a hugely important thing as well, and something I needed interjecting on my journey. Had I even not been sick, I find fasting is the most humbling experience. And somewhere in me, with all that's going on and the position that God has put me in, I needed that humility. And again, in saying it, I lose it, but I just want to say I experienced these profound times of prolonged humility as I lay in my bed weak with God and fasting and weeping and asking Him to continue to do all that He does in my life, to allow me to do all that He asks me to do of the gift of this life. So that was an important thing, coming from my background, coming from this father figure to so many out in Africa, to this humble little boy almost. I was really connected to my inner child and thoughts of my inner childhood and things I hadn't thought of from being a little boy, like books and such. They were all coming up inside my conscious, which shows you how humble I became. And of course, unless we become as children, you cannot enter the kingdom. And when you fully enter the kingdom, you can commune with God more easily. And I was fully in the kingdom for a while, I'm happy to say. And that was the big spiritual benefits of my fast. And emotional, and of course the mental strength that comes from, and the refreshment of my faith. The physical side of things, as I said, my symptoms lifted. and that's why I stopped. But what I will say is over the last 6 weeks, I have fasted more than 33 days in total. This should have been over, or perhaps not. Perhaps there was a reason I needed to go this long. But had I used the knowledge and common sense that I have back in January when I fasted for 2 weeks, I was 4 days out of the fast. On the 5th day out, I was supposed to fly to England. So I tried to work and get everything done on the 4th day. And on the 5th day, I crashed and all my symptoms, well, I was symptom free on the 4th day. On the 5th day, all my symptoms came back and I was very ill. And that crash, which is part of, called post-exertion malaise, which is part of fatigue syndromes, be they viral or chronic fatigue, stayed with me all the way through February. And it wouldn't shift, none of these, and it was worse. Every time you have a crash, it's worse. So the pains were worse, the fatigue was worse, the brain fog was worse. And when I was eating, during the time after I'd fasted and refed, I was eating a raw food diet, predominantly a little bit of cooked food. I was feeling still the intense body pain and neuropathy and everything like this, just intensifying the longer I went on eating. So I did a dry fast before I did my water fast, refed a few days, then I water fasted 14 days. So I did 2 14-day water fasts and a 4-day dry fast in between them. It's not the right way to do it. I thought I'd recovered, hence me doing it that way. But because of that, something new happened to me, and this should lead me on to the importance of fasting safely. Precautions I take, I'm well studied and I'm experienced. I taught myself, but I have done 40-day fasts. I've done long water fasts. I'm no stranger to what's going on. I'm no stranger to certain communities online where you can ask questions, and the books, especially Dr. H. Shelton, Fasting and Sunbathing, the Fasting Bible for me. Dr. Furman is another one who has a lot of good work on fasting. Having all that knowledge helped me a lot, because when I broke the fast, I noticed I was having a lot of tingling sensations and neuropathy in my body, and I said, this is bad. This is electrolytes. Now, electrolytes in a healthy person shouldn't be a problem, but I was already fasting in a fatigued and damaged state to begin with, plus everything that had gone on. And I counterbalanced that by doing sodium and magnesium rubs into my legs after I'd broken the fast, not during the fast. And for certain, I started with this small issue with electrolytes coming out of the day that I stopped fasting. The day that God gave me the sign that it was okay to stop fasting, I put the end of the fast in God's hands. I said, I won't stop until you give me the sign, and He knows I won't, so He gave me the sign that I asked for. I mention that not to scare people, but just to say it's important that we fast safely and that you have the knowledge that you need going into things. And those 2 books are perfect start. Any works by those guys, a perfect start. And for even with so many fasts under my belt and so much experience, I had a little disturbance with that. It cleared up later in the day, but it was definitely an electrolyte imbalance, which can be very dangerous for a human being, and that was brand new. All the other times I fasted much longer than this, I've never had a problem, but I've never fasted whilst so sick to begin with. So a lesson learned on my behalf there as well. If you're wanting to do a controlled fast, then fasting with a fasting supervisor is a supervised fast is probably the safest way to water fast, just to put that in there. If you're fasting at home, I'd say make sure you have all of the knowledge and online support you have, and go into it that way. Don't go into it blindly. You must learn to accept your own ability to be your own doctor in life sometimes, I feel. And there were certain people asking me questions actually in the comment section of the fast videos, and I'm going to answer a couple of them during this video. But for those who had fatigue problems, I absolutely say that fasting can help you. My symptoms have gone, and for those of you who don't know about fatigue syndromes, people can stay with their symptoms all year round and just live a lesser quality of life whilst they do. They just accept the symptoms are there. But it's not the case. You trap them in your homeostasis by not giving your body the physiological rest it's asking for to fix the problem. A lady mentioned fibromyalgia. I know somebody who, after 5 days of drinking only vegetable and fruit juices, and after 20 years of fibromyalgic pain, the pain went away after only 5 days. Now you can look on YouTube, there are plenty of testimonies for the same sort of thing happening to people. So we should always get it out the way and let our body do what it wants to do. And in my instance, for those of you with fatigue syndrome, it's worked. The refeeding itself is hugely important. I broke the fast with melon, cantaloupe melon, nice and ripe, but my body didn't want it. Now that's never happened to me. I wasn't in detox either. What my body didn't want was fruit. It didn't want the sugar. And I don't know why, because it's never happened before. It just did not want it. So I steamed zucchini and blended it until it was liquid, and I used that to refeed for the rest of the day. Now that's something I've never done. I've always stayed on raw fruits, on raw food completely for a long time after fasts, but there's no harm in doing what your body's intuitively asking for, and my insides wanted something warm and nurturing, and I gave it that. Now I think it's because of the electrolyte imbalance, because I added some Himalayan salt to that as well. Again, not something I would say you should do coming out of a fast. However, with my electrolytes doing that, I decided to, and I think this is why the zucchini was what my intuitive self was asking for. I'm still going to be eating a lot of fruits, and I'll still be eating the diet which we are best designed by our ancestral and evolutionary type to eat, which is the starch-based diet and the vegan diet. I will refeed slowly. Around about 10 days I should be at full strength, bearing in mind how much I had fasted. If it was just a 2-week fast it would be less, but you just need to coax your digestive system back into action. This is my second day eating, and I've already had a bowel movement, which means my digestive system started working, so I'm okay. But you must take it slowly. You must have temperance, and you mustn't overindulge too much. It's tempting to, but you will undo much of the fast. If not, you can reverse a lot of the benefits by overeating, especially eating the wrong diet and wrong foods. If you break it with the wrong food completely, you could even kill yourself if you've been fasting more than 10 to 14 days. Persons died in World War II leaving prisoner of war camps due to a thing called refeeding syndrome, where they ate too much meat or potatoes, the body couldn't digest it, and they passed away sadly. And you have to watch out for this. If you are a person who does eat still animal products after a fast, you shouldn't be touching them for at least 2 weeks for your safety. In an ideal world, you shouldn't be touching them at all, but I know certain persons out there who keep, for instance, cows, etc., or goats, and they are very loving towards them, and the cows produce milk without calf for up to 15 years because of the love that they're shared. So I know people do use it still, but if you're going to, just be careful on your body. That's all I will say from my experience. I can start adding my pulses and beans and stuff like that at around about 7 days. I'll be okay to do that. I will then continue with the diet I feel. I'm going to make a video about this. The diet I know from everything I can see and experience we are best designed to eat, which will get into not just the vegan diet, but actually the fact that we have so many markers for cooked food in our body that I don't any longer, I used to, but I don't any longer feel that raw is fully adequate for a human diet. It's not practical either, believe me. You can't store it in the tropics or transport it without a fridge. If you don't have that, it just doesn't work. So the Other thing I was asked in my, let me tell you a few things about during the fast. That refeeding, you take it slow, you're still weak, all your energy is going to here, so you get a bit tired. One thing, I haven't cut them yet, I'm going to cut them today. My fingernails grew exponentially during, I don't know if you can see it due to the light on my camera, during my water fast. And they are strong, they're the strongest fingernails I've had in a long time. Now, Dr. Shelton shows in his work that the only thing that grows during a fast is the skeleton and the fingernails. So the more long fasts you do, actually the taller you're getting. We have seen it with our rescue dogs. When we get puppies who have come in skeletal, they're always taller dogs than the other dogs around them, even if they are from the same age, same breed, so on. They're always taller. So, and they're always legs, full of legs sort of thing. And it's the same with us, and my fingernails are so strong. It's very normal, but they're so strong. My white tongue has gone. Toxemia, normally if you're just drinking water to the end of your fast, your tongue will only go clear when toxemia is over. There's no time scale. You might be not toxic after 7 days because you're clean, it might go away. It might be 28. Most people it's 30, 40 days. The other side of the things that go on during the fast is as well your hair. Your hair grows as well, is what I wanted to add to that. Any other old problems you might have will come up. Now, that will predominantly for many people, if not physical, be psychological. So you have to be ready for that. And you have to be ready to lay in bed with your eyes closed. If not, you're going to slow down the healing process. And you allow these thoughts to come up so as you can process them and release them. Release them to those beings or those energy fields, those photons around you who are there to collect them, or those aspects of the light within you that does not serve you fully. So that is the end of my fast, and it's been a humbling journey, a healing journey, and a journey that has left me feeling more profoundly, aside from my physical healing, a sense of honour over grief, which could only have been done by God during this fast. And that somehow was the most profound impact on me. That's why I keep mentioning it. So, it's not that the flesh is something to despise. It's that the flesh is a naughty child. And if you really want to ground it for a while, if you really want to tell it to go to its room for a while, you need to bring out the parent, the wise one, in all its glory, as loud as you can, and that's the heart and spirit. And there's no better way to do that. There's no better way I've found in my life to do that than service to others and fasting. And that is how my life, until the day I am grey and old, will continue with spirit. I should add one last thing. Weight loss. Never fast to lose weight, but I have lost a lot of weight. Since I got sick, I've lost 10 kilograms in weight. I'm already quite lean from running, although I haven't been able to run since October because I was getting post-exertion malaise. I will now regain weight, and I won't push myself until after April when my son's born, to avoid crashing into, allow my body to heal everything, the nervous system and the organs that have a few problems in there. I got more test results back, but I don't want to get the video too long. And the weight will come off, but it will come back on. So there's no need for it. If you think fasting to lose weight is a good idea, fasting's always a good idea, but just doing it to lose weight, I can't say enough that it's just not right. You should just go for a jog in the morning or cycling, whatever your body can do. Lastly, one person asked me, is it safe to fast? I want to put this in with type 2 diabetes. And for all of you watching, if you have these health problems that are supposedly incurable, you need to start looking to God's original design. First of all, look to Genesis 1:29, where God originally said in there, so as everybody can see, you're supposed to be a vegan. Now, you don't even need to look there. You can look in the science books at evolution now. You can look at the dental records of Neanderthal and see that they were predominantly eating starch, not fat. Now, there are schools of thought on ketosis and starch, etc. But the reason I say this is type 2 diabetes has been cured, I think it's 80 or 90% of the time, on a high carbohydrate, low fat vegan diet. And in fasting centres across the world, it is cured 100% of the time, because the fasting takes away the fat from your bloodstream, which stops the blockage, which stops the insulin resistance, which stops you reacting. The glucose is not the problem, it's the thing blocking the keyhole that the glucose wants to pass through that's the problem, which is the insulin. Diabetes type 2 was cured in the 60s using white rice and white table sugar. Dr. John McDougall has a paper on his website about it. So yes, you can, and you'll get great benefits from it if you do. But you'll also get the spiritual benefits, which I am basking in at the moment. So, my fast is over. Refeeding will be slow and gentle. Fruits, steamed vegetables, and you should just take your time with it. Don't overeat if you're fasting or looking at this video because you want to refeed from a fast. But if you're looking to my videos for the science of fasting, you're going to hear about the spiritual side of fasting as well, because the two are one in the same. They are absolutely interrelated, because the physical healing I've had is no doubt was hindered by the spiritual healing I've had, of realizing that I should be an honored human being, and I am, as I say, that I am the one that God has chosen to hand these precious lives at their time of passing over into his wonderful care. And what an amazing feeling that is, to carry that with me as I go back into the year ahead. Has released a great deal of pressure from me internally. I can't possibly begin this. Love you guys. Thank you for all the love and support, and I'll see you all soon. Happy fasting. Bye guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light guys, see you soon.